Maryland's new Attorney General makes do on a campaign promise to fight fraud. Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.
And I'm Patricia Vallone. Thank you for joining us. Well, Attorney General Brian Frosh returns to the State House today to champion for a measure he was never able to get passed as a senator. The state's top prosecutor says rooting out corruption and abuse in the state and local governments is his top legislative priority this session. Today, committees in both the House and Senate held hearings on the False Claims Act 2015. Frosh joined the bill's sponsors to push for a passage of the measure, which he says would also provide protections and compensation for whistleblowers.
It's basically any area in which the state spends money and hires independent contractors to provide services or goods to the state. You'll find somebody who's going to cheat. This is a bill that's good for the state, it's good for the citizens, it's good for business.
20 states in the District of Columbia, as well as the federal government, have enacted broad false claim laws. Maryland is one of 9 other states that currently has a limited version that applies only to health care cases.
I mean, in their personal life, I have nothing to do with people's personal lives.
But you think that's a good representative of the organization to talk on housing?
NAACP. That's all I can say.
Well, that's the reaction of the NAACP Maryland State Conference president to the recent conviction of its Housing Committee chair, Carmen Johnson, in federal court. Johnson, who also represented the Prince George's NAACP chapter, was found guilty of conspiracy, wire fraud, and related charges for her part in 2 multi-million-dollar mortgage schemes in 2007 and 2008.
Happened before she became an part of the NAACP, so I know that while she was working with us, she's done a lot to help a whole lot of people. So I have no idea what's going on with that.
And court documents show the mortgage schemes by Johnson and 5 co-conspirators bilked financial institutions out of more than $2 million. She is scheduled to be sentenced in June and could spend the rest of her life behind bars.
Lawsuits have been filed against 2 college fraternities for alleged hazing incidents. The plaintiffs say they were beaten so badly their bodies were bruised. One says he was taken to an area hospital. Both men are scheduled to testify tomorrow in Annapolis at a hearing examining whether the penalties for hazing should be increased. CTV's Byron Scott sat down with the men in our studio.
And we're going to start with Kevin Hayes, who's a student at Bowie State University. You were pledging with Alpha Phi Alpha, and you're alleging that you were hazed. Talk about what happened and how it all started and how you got through it all.
Originally, I was interested in the organization because of the men who had come before me in it. And what I went through was not something I believe those men would approve. We went out every night between 5 and 8 hours. We were beaten with paddles, with hands. We were kicked. We were slapped.
And this went on for how long a period of time?
This went on for about 12 weeks, I believe.
And you say you were injured during this time?
Yes.
Physically injured?
I attained bruises on my sides, my back, and my buttocks during that period of time. And
so while you were undergoing this treatment that you alleged occurred to you, how did you react to it? Did you tell them not to do it? Did you continue to go along with the fraternity?
We were told if we said anything, that there would be consequences. And then there were threats made to say, if you talk, we're going to get you. And so you are suing the fraternity. But before we talk about that, I want to bring in Mr. Powell. You were pledging for Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity at Stevenson. What happened in your case?
It was hazing. And we had nights from like 9 p.m. to about 2 a.m., 4 a.m., depending on the night, where we're out at these people's houses being beat with paddles or canes. And so you allege that you were hazed over how long a period of time? Mine was about 2 months before I was admitted to the hospital.
What happened in that case?
Well, in the hospital, I had some internal bleeding, and I had bruises on my butt and back, like Kevin also.
So at some point you decided to contact a lawyer, a lawsuit?
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
We're looking to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone after us. We're looking to make it so the law actually deters people from doing this, because the previous law did not.
I know tomorrow in Annapolis there's going to be testimony in the Senate regarding an anti-hazing law, and both you gentlemen are going to be there testifying. Talk about that a little bit.
We'll all be testifying our stories in front of Senator Raskins and the committee to get the bill passed to raise the penalty from $500 to $5,000.
I asked the question before we began rolling here. Despite the mistreatment that you alleged occurred, you guys still went through and stayed with the fraternity. Why did you do that?
In my case, I was in the middle of pledging. Then I became a member and still was being hazed after that.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I mean, the reason we stayed was more so because I think what people don't understand, there's a term of brainwashing that occurs that makes you stay in it. You're threatened to, if you leave or you tell, then we're going to hurt the other people that you're online with. Okay. Even worse. Okay. So it's a form of brainwashing that I think people don't really understand. It's a mental thing. So
if we have time here, what I'd like to do is show, if you can show this picture here, and if you can, explain to us what we're looking at and what happened there. Just hold it still if you can, right about here.
This picture happened after a night where I got some information wrong. When I said an individual's name who I had never met, who I had never seen in my life, I did not know it. And this is the result of that.
So while they were hazing you, what was allegedly, what were they saying? Why were they doing it?
Well, originally they would tell me that we have to break you down to build you back up. Mm-hmm. That was, the thing. We got to break you down, we got to beat you so that you can become a member. I mean, kind of like a gang mentality kind of thing. Okay. So again, you guys testify tomorrow in Indianapolis. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Powell and Mr. Hayes. Thank you very much.
Alpha Phi Alpha released a statement saying the Bowie chapter remains on suspension. The fraternity says it cannot comment on any ongoing investigation. The attorney representing Kappa Alpha Psi did not return our phone calls. Well, today, the U.S. Supreme Court will consider whether Abercrombie & Fitch's refusal to hire a Muslim woman wearing a religious headscarf was discriminatory. Samantha Ulof was 17 when she applied for the model position at Abercrombie Kids. Her application faltered because her headscarf did not match their so-called look policy. The Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission filed a suit on Ulof's behalf.
Well, I think that the court is going to want to drill down very carefully into the facts of the case to see whether wearing a scarf somehow disrupts an important part of the job. I mean, is it crucial to the image or the appearance of one of the salespeople that they not be wearing a scarf or not? And the conservatives will probably lean in the direction of saying you leave it up to the employer to decide the question, and the liberals will probably be more open to the argument that this is pretextual and it's really a case of religious discrimination.
Now, CTV spoke with Ulof, who says, quote, "I am not only standing up for myself, but for all people who wish to adhere to their faith while at work. Observance of my faith should not prevent me from getting a job." Now, the EEOC lawyers say the final decision is expected to be announced in June. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.
And I'm Patricia Vallone.